Hello, thank you for joining me once again. I am continuing the reading of The Children of the Law of One and the Lost Teachings of Atlantis by Jon Peniel. We are on Chapter 9, Part 2, page 118, and we're starting at the point of serious delusion, okay? Thank you for subscribing. Welcome to all the new subscribers, and if you haven't subscribed, now is the perfect time, and please hit the like button so that others can see this valuable information as well, okay? So thank you for listening, and let's get started. Serious delusion. Engrave this in your mind. It is so important. The Atlantean children of the Law of One teach that the world's problems, our personal problems, and all the actions that create the problems come from our delusions that we are separate from the One, and the selfishness that results from that delusion. Think about it, Peniel. Would there be wars if we knew we were one? If all you could do was fight and hurt yourself? No. Exactly. Because what is the point of hurting yourself or waging war on yourself? Would there be oppression? None. Because what is the point of oppressing yourself? Would there be anger, jealousy, theft, starvation, racial hatred? No, it wouldn't make sense. It doesn't make sense. Think about all the problems I just mentioned. What is behind each one of them? Humans, yes, but what is behind their personal causing actions? You already know, but you will need to teach the masses someday. Don't let them get caught in the surface illusions. Don't let them think the problem is greed, because what's the source of greed? Selfishness. Don't let them think the problem is hate. What's the source of hate? Selfishness. Proclaim it for all to see. Tell them in your book and your meetings. Help them clearly and finally understand that the real problem, the real enemy, the real source of all the bad things on earth is simply selfish people acting selfishly. And it is up to each person to change themselves, not the world. That is the only way to change the world. Each of us is a selfish person acting selfishly. We are thus our own enemy. And going further to the root of the matter, what is behind selfishness? Thinking you are separate from everything else. Then looking out for number one begins. And when you have a whole world full of people looking out for number one, you can see the results. Just turn to the news. Sleeping with our enemy. Like the ancient Atlantean teachings say, and Zayn so intensely drove home in me, in order to permanently eradicate this selfish monster that plagues us all and plagues the world, we must get to the root of it. If you want to permanently kill a plant and ensure that it won't grow back again, you need to destroy the root. At the root of selfishness is our illusion that we are not one with all things, all life, the entire universe, and our subsequent belief that this illusion is real. This belief created a new identity and supports the existence of this new separate identity that is naturally selfish, and therein lies the enemy. But our belief is a lie. The illusion is not real. This belief created a new identity and supports the existence of this new separate identity that is naturally selfish and therein lies the enemy. But our belief is a lie. The illusion is not real. It is like we are all asleep and thus out of touch with the reality of the real awake world that is around our sleeping bodies. We are each sleeping with the enemy we created. We remain unconscious, letting our enemy command the helm of the ship of our lives, like a dream we have no control over. Meanwhile, our spiritual self, the part of us that is one with the universal spirit, is locked up in the brig and just forced to go along on the voyage like so much baggage. This is something that each of us must personally come to deal with and then be on alert about each moment of all our days on earth. But you cannot fight your selfish separate self directly. It only gives it energy. What do the Atlantean children of the law one's teachings say about how we must deal with it if we want to change? They say that the only way to change things and get back in harmony with the one is to starve the selfish separate self of energy, of giving in to it, of thought, attention, and simultaneously nurture the inner being, the spirit within us. And this requires help. My greatest help was primarily Zayn and his insight into me combined with his wisdom. And only secondarily, the ancient teachings. So I need to be less self-centered? Zayn just sighed. Then after a few moments he spoke. You need more help. You need to use the resources you have at your disposal to see yourself more, to know yourself better, and meditate on that to deal with it. More on that later. But eventually, I finally got it. I had not been looking at my self-centeredness enough. I was avoiding the things I needed to do to break those self-mirrors that totally surrounded me in the room of my life. The self-mirrors that I thus saw all things reflected off of first instead of seeing pure objective reality. I didn't know myself, and he, as all true teachers do, was mirroring my inner self and not letting me get away with my delusion. He was simply reminding me about it and helping me deal with what I needed in order to realize my continued self-deception. Know yourself. The separate self is a very clear thing, and it has the ability of a supercomputer. It has your brain at its disposal. It has all the knowledge you have, all the cleverness and cunning you have. It can lie and confuse even you. People delude themselves all the time. It has control over everything you control. Like Sherlock Holmes, you must anticipate every step of morality. Every step of Moriarty if you want to beat him at his own game. Moriarty. Obviously then, knowing the intricacies and modes of operation of yourself is a key to many things. You must know yourself in order to transcend yourself and regain universal consciousness. If you truly understand yourself, you will know all other selves, for all selves are the same, and they behave the same way. For instance, How can you understand anger in another if you don't understand it in yourself? And when you thus know and understand all selves, you will really understand the world. Thus, understanding others allows you to bridge the gap of separation and help them achieve universal consciousness also. When you truly know yourself, see your own selfishness transcend it, and become a person who loves unselfishly, then you will clearly understand the selfishness in others and the unselfish love in others. You will see both aspects simultaneously and as a whole. How to fully know and transcend yourself will be addressed in the chapters on the teacher/student relationship. Right now, we need to cover more of the basics of what the selfish separate self is and how it affects our lives so we can totally understand it. The conscious scale. Each person has the potential to be both selfish and to unselfishly love. Imagine there is a meter that has a scale with selfishness, negativity, on the left, and unselfish love, positivity, on the right. Your consciousness is the needle on this meter. Most people act selfishly most of the time, and sometimes act unselfishly, so the needle jumps around a bit. But everyone has a status quo of sorts where the needle stays most of the time. This average location of the needle represents the general level of their state of consciousness. 3 makes a whole. As if separation from the one didn't cause enough problems alone, the separate self is further separated within itself. And the lower an individual's consciousness is, the more there are internal separation problems. You may have noticed how numbers and a certain mathematical geometry seems to weave threads throughout life and are somehow significant to many things. This has to do with the vibratory nature of existence and is discussed more in a later manuscript, but it also applies in the following teachings. But in any case, here are some obvious scientific facts and some teachings about our 2- and 3-fold nature. Some aspects of ourselves divided into 2 parts. There is the selfish and unselfish splits parts we just spoke of, the male-female split, the logic-intuition split, the intellect-emotional split, the positive-negative split, and the 2 split parts are often at odds with each other. Some people, regardless of sex, are more right-brained and others more left-brained. Still, other aspects of ourselves are divided into 3 parts, which we are about to discuss. All creation itself has a 3-fold nature. Within the 3-fold nature, we can also see the 2-fold dichotomy of the material plane. These natures can be looked at and thought of in many ways, but here is the fundamental concept. The first nature is light, the positive polarity, the plus sign. The second nature is darkness, the negative polarity, the negative sign. The third nature is the interaction or intercourse of darkness and light as a whole. The 3-fold nature has been represented by various religions in various ways. The yin and yang, dark and light, interacting in a circle, the Father, Son, and Holy Ghost, etc. 4 represented in many ways, such as the cross, the tetragrammaton, the oldest name of God indicates the offspring of the three and the beginning of a new cycle of creation. This will be covered in depth in a later chapter. Since we are already part of and one with all creation, each of us individually is also of a threefold nature. This threefold human nature manifests in many ways. The threefold essential vibratory nature in our human manifestation is spiritual, mental, and physical. You can also see it in the nature of our consciousness, in that called the subconscious mind, the conscious mind, and the universal conscious mind. The balance and coordination of the threefold nature has been, and still is, lost with most people. The twofold dichotomy is the dominant nature of our material existence on earth. Thus, few ever really relate to the spiritual, but all relate to the mental and physical. Also, few ever relate to the universal consciousness, but all relate to the subconscious and conscious mind. If we were as we should be, our inner being would be coordinating these parts of ourselves, and they would be functioning as an intricate whole. And ordinarily, the universal spirit would be guiding the entire process, keeping us functioning harmoniously within ourselves and in harmony with the one. But because of our consciousness is cut off from the universal spirit, and we are not properly in touch with our own inner beings, we are an uncoordinated internal mess. Obviously, we need to re-coordinate all these fragments of ourselves. We achieve this as a natural side effect of transcending selfishness by developing and fostering our unselfish love for others. The process is also aided by various techniques and exercises described later in the book that coordinate the subconscious, conscious, and universal minds. For those who achieve reunification with the universal spirit, paradise awaits, making a new world. As we pointed out earlier, when we have a whole world full of people who selfishly care more about themselves than others, you have a world such as it is today. But on the bright side, you can imagine what it would be like if we all cared for each other more than ourselves. Contemplate that for a while. That's what the children teach and work for. The ancient Atlantean teachings also proclaim that those who want to help change the world for the better must first change themselves and transform into unselfishly loving beings. It takes a fire of some kind at least to light a fire. The children's ancient Atlantean teachings say that if you want to live a world of loving people, be a loving person. They also teach that one of the ways to achieve this is to put others before yourself, to love others first, to consider others first, to give to others first. There are some who are against the idea of caring for others first. They say you must love yourself first in order to love others. But as Zayn told me long ago, examine the results of the two philosophies with an open mind and the answer will become clear. There are many who have succeeded in loving their own self first, but have never gone on to really care for anyone else. They just further their own selfishness. They continue to be selfish contributors to a negative world. On the other hand, All those who have embraced caring for others first always loved their own self also. Think about it. If you love others first, you become an unselfishly loving being. Is it possible to then not feel good yourself? Not love yourself? No. There is no way anyone could not love themselves then. You would love yourself automatically and feel great about yourself because your unselfish love is of great help to all, including yourself. This is also the only way you can unselfishly love yourself, and unselfish love is truly the only real love. There is a law of one in action here. Let me reiterate the faucet antidote to illustrate this. Try to see it like this. We are like one who needs and wants water, love. We are valves, faucets connected to a water supply. When we let the water flow freely giving it out, it is also flowing in us and through us. But if we try to possess our water by shutting it off, our giving, not letting the water flow on through us, we shut off our own supply, for it is no longer in us. This is truly loving yourself, not first, not second, it's simultaneously. Just by giving it, doing it. Here is a parable from a scroll I found in the library, written in the 1st century AD by an early Christian sect in Greece. Judging from the insightful story, this sect apparently were real Christians, i.e., people that followed Jesus's teachings and living example about unselfish loving rather than merely worshiping and praising Jesus. The story uses a striking allegory fantasy to clearly illustrate a fundamental difference between a world of people looking out for themselves first and a world of people giving first. So you'll see that it's, once again, the italic text, okay? There was a man who died and was being taken to heaven by angels. The angels said to him, "We are going to take you to heaven, but first, we will show you hell." The angels then took him to a place where there was a great bowl, so great that it was as big as a lake. The bowl was filled with a nutritious stew. All the way around the sides of the bowl were people. Emaciated, starving, miserable people. These people had spoons to eat the stew with, and the spoons were long enough to reach the stew, about 12 feet. The trouble was, while they could scoop up the stew into the spoon, they could not get it into their mouths because the spoons were too long. So here were all these pathetic people suffering and moaning in agony, constantly trying to eat the food that was abundant in front of them, all in vain. Next, the angel took the man to heaven. To his surprise, he saw the same scene. There it was, a giant lake-like bowl full of the same stew, surrounded by people with 12-foot long spoons. Yet, something was different here. All these people were smiling, happy, and healthy looking. Why? What is the difference here that these people are happy and well fed, the man said to the angel. They replied, to the angels, they replied, have you not eyes to see? The man looked more carefully and observed that one person would scoop up the stew and bring it to the mouth of another. Then someone else would scoop up stew and feed it to the other. The angel smiled and said, here the people feed each other. Here are the people that learned the way of love. Some of you agree with the idea expressed in the parable and would like to live that way. Yet you find yourself questioning the practicality of doing something like that. It's not unreasonable to think something like this, but if I give all for others, I will surely be taken advantage of and having nothing. If that is your quandary, take heart. There is a way. It may seem too idealistic or impractical to you right now to stop thinking selfishly. And in a way, you may be right. It is a bad idea to change yourself into a being who gives and lives for others without discretion. Giving to selfish people can sometimes do the people you're giving to more harm than good. There are plenty who will selfishly take, and there are needs to be discretion as to who to give to and how. But there are ways around having to deal with this when you are in a transitional and learning phase. That is a part of what having a monastatic period in your life and or living in a monastery/spiritual community is all about. Discussed more in later chapters. Okay, so that was the end of chapter 9. Chapter 10 will continue on page 124. We've been reading The Children of the Law of One and the Lost Teachings of Atlantis by Jon Peniel. Please, if you have not subscribed already, please subscribe and then come back and listen to me continue to read the rest of the book, okay? And until then, have the most benevolent day.